So today we'll start with how to create the databases and how to use the database, how to create tables, how to upload tables in database like SQL Server and all these things. So today this will be our topic. So now we'll start with the example only. So right now, if we want to create a database, so suppose there is a company XYZ who has a requirement to create a database. Now, how this company XYZ will create his database and how this company will store the data, we are going to do all those things in this class. So firstly, we'll try with creating the databases. So now, suppose if you will see this interface, so this is Microsoft SQL Server, and these are some options that are here. So basically, this name that you are showing here, like this is our server, and the below things that you are seeing here, these are like databases and other things as well. So now if you want to check, what are the databases here, then you can check. You can click here and you can see what are the different databases are here. So we have only one database, which is ecom database that we have created. Other databases that are here are system databases and database snapshots. But our main thing, previously before this class, I have created one database and its name is ecom database. That's why you are seeing it here. So now let's try to create our own database for the company XYZ, which wants to store data of his employees. So to create a database, we have to write create. And after writing create, we have to write database. So if you want to create a database, first you have to write create database. Now the third thing is, what is the name of that database? So suppose I want to give the name of that database as ABC. So I want to create a database with the name ABC. Now, when you are writing a SQL query, then at the end of the query, like for example, if your query is ending here, then you have to put a semicolon. Now in Microsoft SQL Server, semicolon is not compulsory. If you will not put a semicolon, then also it is fine. But the semicolon tells us that our query is ending here, or the command that we are writing is ending here. So now, if I will run this thing, so if you want to run anything on SQL Server, first you have to drag it. And after dragging that thing, you have to click on execute. Once you will click on execute, it will give you a command that command completed successfully, which means your database is created successfully. If you go here in this part and you refresh it, let's do it again. Yeah. See, you are able to see here a database which is named as ABC. So now a database or a storage house is built. Now, if you want to create a table inside this database, so if you want to create a table, so now there are two databases that you are seeing here, ecom database and ABC. So tell me, if I want to create the table or anything in ABC database, what I have to use next? What command I have to write? Yeah, so people are saying you have to use. So I will write use. And after use, you don't have to write database. You have to write the name of the database. So I will write use ABC. Now, if I will run this command by dragging it, it will again show me a prompt that command completed successfully, which means right now, the things that you are going to do next will get saved and will get accumulated inside my ABC database only. Now tell me, if I again run this command, what will happen? It will give us an error because if we have created a database with a name, we cannot create one more database with the same name until and unless we have deleted or destroyed the old one. So if you have created a database with a name, you cannot create one more, because it will show you that database ABC already exists, which means if you are creating a database with a name, you can create a different database with other database. Senthil Kumar is asking how to delete a database. Senthil, these things, that how to delete a database, this comes into DDL, DML and other kind of commands, and that we will see in the next class. So right now, when I will tell you about these commands which are used in SQL, you will get to know how to delete, how to drop, and how to do other things in the databases. Okay. So this will be a separate class on commands in which you will get to know like how we are doing these kind of things. But right now, the first step was creating a database, and second step is using the database. Now, what is the third thing that we are going to see? So suppose if I want to write, suppose I want to create a new database, and I want to write the name of database, the the tea shop. Will I be able to create this database? If I want to give a database name as the tea shop, can I create this kind of database? No, we cannot create this kind of database, because when you are creating a database, at that point of time, you have to be very sure that there is no space involved. See, there is a space involved. So create database command is not able to understand by which name he has to create the database. That's why it is showing you an error. If I will run this command, incorrect syntax, because database is not able to understand what is the exact name of the database, because there are three spaces in between. But for example, if there is something mandatory, like for example, if a person or a company wants you to create a database with the same name, which has spaces as well, then what you have to do? At that point of time, there are two ways. See, first way is you can use a underscore. If you will use the underscore, it will not be able to recognize the space and it will create the database easily. But if someone wants spaces only, then what you have to do is you have to put a square bracket here and you have to put a square bracket here, and that's it. Let's run this. Command completed successfully. Let's try to refresh it now. See, the database is created with spaces in between. Is this clear to all of you? Okay. Why I'm explaining you this thing? Because many of the times, if you are learning to create a database, people are not teaching you how to create this kind of thing. And if you are a beginner, you want to create something like this, you get an error. Then you ask why this error. So that's why, like, try to solve this error first before you got this. So now we have created this database, but basically we have created this database also. But tell me, if I will create any table, in which database that table will get stored? See, I have created a new database now, but if I will try to insert some table of if I will try to insert some data, in which database it will go? Tell me. ABC. Why ABC? Because I have used the ABC database. I have not used the T shop database. So let's run it again. It's not mandatory, but I'm running it again. Now you have created a database, you have used that database. Now the third step comes into the picture, which is how to create a table. Because when you will write a query, when you will do the things, you want to fetch information from a table itself. So right now, our third approach is how to create a table. So it's very simple. If you want to create a table, you will write create table and the name of the table. So let's take the name of the table as employees. Now, the same thing that I told you here, the same thing works here also. If you want to give a spaces, you have to use square bracket, but I don't want to give any space here. So I have written create table employees. Now I will put a parenthesis, open and close. So now the table structure that you want to define, you have to define it inside these parentheses. So now the complete structure of the table, how I want to create my table and everything will be inside this parenthesis only. But before this, what I will do is I will tell you how to create a structure. What are the things required for creating the structure? So first we'll talk about data types. So yesterday I told you that if you want to create a structure of the table, or if you want to create a table, you have to focus on two things, which is first is data types and second is constraint. So now we are going to talk about data types. So the first data type that we are going to talk about it is int. How many of you know why int is used? Why int is used? Okay, so people are saying int is used for inserting numerical data, like numeric data. So first we'll tell you one thing. See, if I'm writing int, so int basically means integer. So tell me, is -1 an integer? Is -1 an integer? Yes. So if I want to store -1, I can use int data type. Tell me, is 12 an integer? 12 is also integer. So it will also be stored in integer data type. But if I want to store Durgesh, will it get inside integer data type? The answer is no, because int can only take integers, numbers, that's all. So if you want to talk about integer, then the things that you can store inside integers start from -2147. So let's don't talk about memory. So you can say, like for your example, I can say that from -1 lakh to 1 lakh. You can store more as well, but for your information, I'm just telling you that you can store negative values as well as positive values, but in the form of integers in int data type. So if I want to store -2147, I will store it inside the integer data type. The first thing is integer. Now, in this integer, there is something known as float also. Float. So float is again a different version of it. So if you want to store decimal values, like decimal values, for example, if I want to store 101.36 for 0.35, then this kind of value will be stored inside our float data type because it has decimal places involved in it. So at any point of time, if you want to store some value that has decimal places inside it, you can store it inside a float data type. Is this clear to all of you? Okay. Now, let's talk about and see why we are learning these data types, because these data types are very important. Because when you are, I told you that data types are basically container that hold some specific kind of values. So why these data types are important? Because we have to we have to identify which column will hold what kind of values, so that if anyone wants to add any other value, the data will get destroyed. See, just take an example. If I will not give any data type and I will create a column, so in the name column, a person can enter age also, a person can enter name also, a person can enter employee ID also. At the end of the day, the data will be unstructured. There will be no structure of data. There can be any data in any column, and that is not a good thing. So before creating a table, we have to identify what column will store what kind of values. So now we talked about numbers. Let's talk about alphabets strings. So basically, string is the real name. I am telling you alphabets because many people can be here who are like starting SQL. So for their clarity, I have used alphabets as well. So if I want to store a name, if I want to store alphabets, like alphabets, if I want to store something like ABC, DEF, Chennai, anything that is related to the alphabetical side or string side. So what is a string? So basically, I will tell you what is a string. So if I have written Durgesh Yadav, let's say Durgesh, then Durgesh is basically a string and it is a string of 7 characters. So if you want to enter characters, alphabets, a string, these kind of values, then there is a data type which is known as varchar. Varchar, comma, char. These are the two data types, like most used data types that are used for inserting values like above, like alphabetical values, character values, and name values, and all these kind of values. So now, why these both are used? We can use one also, now. If both can accommodate same kind of value, then why we are using both of them? We can use one also. So now I will tell you how these varchar and char store values. So suppose there is a table. Suppose there is a table in which I want to create a name column. Now, if I want to create a name column, I have to give a data type to the name column. So suppose I have given a data type varchar, and now when you are giving a varchar data type, you have to assign how many values or how many characters that name column can accommodate. So I am writing 20. So what this varchar 20 means? So this varchar 20 means that in the table, in the name column, we can only store a name which has 20 or less than 20 characters in it. If the character size is more than 20, we will get an error. So now we are using this name and we have written varchar 20. Is this clear to all of you? Like what this 20 means inside varchar? Okay, nice. So now, same like this, if we want to enter a name column, we can use char 20 also. And this will also store names which are 20 characters or less than 20 characters. But now what is the difference between them? Both varchar and char are same like of things. Both are storing 20 characters. Then what is the main difference? So now it comes the very important interview question. So very important interview question from basic SQL. So I want of all of you to write. So what is the difference between char and varchar? What is the difference between char and varchar? So suppose I have written char 20. Suppose I have written char 20 and I want to store name Durgesh. Tell me how many letters or how many characters are there in my name? How many characters are there? So there are 7 characters in my name. And tell me how many characters this data type char like how many characters the data type char can accommodate? 20, because we have given 20, so this char can accommodate 20 characters, and we are using only 7 characters because my name is of only 7 characters. Then how many places are vacant? 13. So what will happen for these 13 places? So for these 13 places, it will look like, I will give you an example. It will look like Durgesh and then 13 spaces, something like this. So my name is Durgesh only, but it is like my name. If you will see the output in the table, if you will see the output in the table, you will be able to see Durgesh only. It will not show you Durgesh padded space. But at the back end, this complete thing will show in the form of padded space, which means I'm using 7 characters. So I will again explain, Shaheen. So suppose I have used char20 as my data type, which means that my name column, which has a data type of char20, can accommodate 20 characters inside it. But I am inserting a name Durgesh there, and Durgesh has only 7 characters in it. So out of 20, if I'm using 7 characters, 13 characters are left empty. Like we are not using 13 characters, or 13 vacant places are there. So all those 13 vacant places are replaced by a space. So there is a memory wastage here, because if I want to use only 7 and I am getting a memory of 20, I am only wasting my memory. Is this correct? Yes or no? We are wasting the memory. But same in the example of if we have taken varchar 20. Suppose we have taken varchar 20 and I am inserting the same name Durgesh. Then what will happen? Then there are 7 characters in Durgesh. So what varchar will do? So initially varchar has a memory of 20, which means it can accommodate 20 characters. But once it gets the name Durgesh, what it do is it create a dynamic memory allocation. I will tell you what dynamic memory allocation means. So suppose in my class, there are seats of 30 people. So in my class, there are 30 people, like seats of 30 people. But as soon as I got to know that only 13 people are coming into the class, I removed all the 13 seats from my classes, for my class. So now, right now, there are only seats left where everyone has the accommodation. So I'll give you example again. So suppose in my name there are 7 characters. So as soon as varchar got to know that Durgesh is coming in this location, so what it will do is instead of accommodating Durgesh a memory of 20, it will dynamically allocate a memory to Durgesh of 7 characters. Is this clear to all of you? What varchar is doing? Any doubt? Anyone? Please ask. Okay. So now tell me, if I have told you about varchar and char, if I have told you about varchar and char, then tell me what kind of values are best for char and what kind of values are best for varchar. Tell me what kind of values you will try to store in char, and what kind of values you will try to store in varchar, and the values will be strings and alphabets only. I'm not talking about integers and all. Correct. So if you talk about pin code in India, the size of pin code is 6 characters. Yes or no? Am I correct? Everybody has a pin code of 6 characters only. So now, if you have pin code of 6 characters and you know that the pin code will have 6 characters only, then you will use char. Wait. Let's skip this part. The thing that I want to tell you first is char is faster than varchar. First, understand this thing. So first difference I told you between char and varchar, and the second difference is char is faster than varchar. And why char is faster than varchar? I will tell you the story behind it. Tell me, if you talk about char and if you talk about varchar, how many steps are involved in char and how many steps are involved in varchar? So in char, only one step is involved, which means you are getting the data and you are inserting it. But in varchar, we are involved with two steps. First, we are getting the data. Second, we are dynamically allocating some memory to that data. So in varchar, there are two steps involved. First is getting the data. Second is creating a dynamic memory for that data. So that's why char is faster and varchar is slower. So now tell me, if you want to store a phone number, and again I'm explaining you, see, many people, like many of you people here will understand that phone number is an integer value. Phone number is a numerical value. See, I will give you a difference here. See, if some value is written like this, 123, then it is a numerical value. But if some value is inserted like this, 123, then this is a char value. So any value that comes inside inverted commas is a string value. So if I am writing 123 inside inverted commas, then it is not a numerical value, it's a string value. So if I want to insert my phone number, if I want to insert my phone number, which data type will be best? If I want to store Indian phone numbers, char will be good because you know that size of the phone number is 10. So what you will do is you will insert value like this. So now phone number will have always 10 characters only, and this will accommodate faster because char is faster. But if you want to store name, if I want, अगर मुझे no, like name store करने हैं, then what will happen? Then which data type is best? If I want to store name, then varchar is good because I don't know what can be the name. Like some people can name, some in some cases the name is of 7 characters. In some places the name is for 18 characters, 15 characters. So we don't have a fixed memory for the name. So at that point of time we will use varchar. Is this clear to all of you? Char and varchar thing? Nice. So now once this varchar and char are over, let's talk about, there is something known as text also. Text. So text is also a data type. So now if you want to store a sentence, or if you want to store a complete paragraph of 65, 536 characters, like maximum length is this. So if you want to store a complete paragraph which has 65536 or less than 65536 characters, and space is also counted. Space is also counted. Then you don't have to use char or varchar. You can directly use text as a data type. So in your entire SQL journey, you will only use text for 0.5% of time. 80 to 85% of times you will use varchar, and 10 to 5% of times you will use char for inserting values for strings and all. Now, as we know about this integer and this varchar and char, now I have one more question. I told you that if you want to store integer values, then you will use int. So 654 is an integer. And I also told you If you want to store a string value in the form of int, you can write it like 654. So if you want to store it in the form of a string, then you will write inverted 654. And if you want to store it like numerical value, then you will write it like 654. But how you will identify at what time I want to store it like a string, or at what point of time we want to store it in the form of number? Tell me how you will identify this. So I will give you a clear solution of this, because interviewer asked this question. If you can enter numerical values in the form of a string also, then how you will decide that at what time we have to fill the numerical values with the help of string, or at what point of time we have to fill the numerical values with the help of integer. So at that point of time, it is very simple. If you have to, if you have to do any kind of calculations, if you have to do any kind of mathematical operation, if you want to do any kind of maths operation, then you will use it as a int. Otherwise, you can use it like a char or varchar. Is this clear to all of you? Okay. So now let's take an example and I will ask you. So if you want to enter a phone number, so tell me, do you have to do any calculation with the phone number like multiplication, addition? No. Then the data type will be char. If you have to store employee ID, do you have to do any calculation with the help of employee ID? No, you can use char, or if your employee ID is not fixed for every person, then you can use varchar also. But if you want to do add marks, comma age, then which thing you will use? Int. Because you have to check also age, you can check, and marks also you can check, or marks also you can do a mathematical operation. At that point of time, it will use int. Now tell me, if I want to insert salary, which data type will be best? How many of you, like, tell me, how many of you have got your salary from a company, not in hand, or not like this? How many of you got your salary from the company without having any decimal values? Because every time when I get the salary, like I have like got salary something like this, like there is a point involved. So every point of time we get a point involved or decimal places involved. So at that point of time, salary must be in the float data type. Is this clear to all of you? Okay, nice. So now let's move to the date data types. Date. Now we are talking about date. So what kind of data types are date data types? So there are three kind of data types which are used to store date values. So these are date, comma, date time, comma, timestamp. So if you want to insert date of birth, comma, date of joining. So if you want to only store the date, and I will tell you the date format first, which is very important. So date format is like year, month, day. So at any point of time, if you are using date in SQL, You have to be very specific in the format. Year will come first, then month, then year, day. So if you only want to store the date without any time or anything, then date is your data type, date. Now, if you want to store date in the along with the time, something like this, 2023 0101 uh, 000 35 34 36 and 9876. So if you want to store, if you want to get values, or if you want to store values of date along with time, in which both date and time are there, then you have to use something known as date time. So data type will be date time here, but you can also use timestamp. So date time and timestamp both works like same. If you want to store a value which has date along with the time, then you can use date time as well as timestamp. But but the question is, if we can use both date time and timestamp, then when we have to decide, like when we have to use date time and when we have to use timestamp. So now see, many of the time what happens is, so I will give you a scenario of timestamp. So suppose you are creating a table, you are creating a table and you are inserting some records in that table. So if you want to know the exact time when you inserted the record in the table. So for example, I inserted the record of Durgesh in the table along with 6 other values. And I made a column of date also, which I have given a data type of timestamp. So as soon as my record will get inserted into the table, the same time at which it got inserted into the table, it will reflect along with date and time. Date will also be there and time will also be there. So timestamp can be used to get the time at the same instant. So many of the time people use timestamp as a data type because they want to get the same time when the data gets inserted into the table. So this is a thing that I want to tell you. But now let's go to the difference between date time and timestamp. Date time and timestamp. What is the main difference? So if you want to store the values from starting year 1000 to, to ending year 9999, then you have to use date time. But in timestamp, you can only store the values from 1970 to 2038. So it is very clear. So for example, if I want to store the data for last 100 years for people who got dead with the hair because of cancer, if you want to store this kind of data, then you know that we cannot insert any date before to 1970, which means you will not use timestamp. You will directly use date time. Is this clear to all of you? When you will use timestamp and when you will use date time as a data type? Any questions from anyone? Okay. Okay. So I'm repeating. So in date time and timestamp, both hold the value where both date and time is involved. So if you are writing a record in which date is also there and time is also there, then you can use both of these data types, date time as well as timestamp. But when to use them? So if you have any date time value which is above 1970 and below 2038, then at that point of time, I will suggest you to use timestamp because timestamp is faster than date time. So timestamp जो होता है, that is faster than date time. So if you have anything between 1970 to 2038, then you will use timestamp. It's not mandatory. You can use date time also, but I'm just telling you to be more specific in the things of time and all. But if you have anything before 1970 and anything after 2038 or anything between this 1970 and 2038, then you can use date time. It is very simple. Date time you can use everywhere, but timestamp you can use between this range only. So if you have some data which falls under this range, then I will suggest you to use a faster approach. Use a date timestamp approach. Yeah, this value is fixed, Shivam. This value is fixed, which is faster. Timestamp is faster because it has less storage inside it. So it can process the data faster or can hold the data faster. So timestamp is faster as compared to date time. Any questions from anyone? Any more questions? If all are clear, please type yes and we can move forward. Please type yes if all are clear. And I'm very happy to see that 48 people have joined the session and still now also 48 people are here. So thanks to all of you as well. If you will be serious, then see right now basics are going on. But once you will move to advanced classes, then at that point of time, these basics will help you a lot. So the people who already know these basics, for them, this class can be little boring, but I want to tell you that please try to learn again so that you can learn something more new. So this is about date and all data types. So now let's move to the first part of creating a table. So now we will try to create a table without any constraint. So now we'll try to create a table without any constraint. And why I want to tell you one more thing. So you can create a table without any constraint. You can create a table without any constraint, but you cannot create a table without any data type. See, data types are they are compulsory. If you want to create a table, you have to use the data types. But if you want to create a table without constraint, then it is possible. So let's try to create a table without constraint. Create table employees. And now let's try to make the structure. So firstly, I want to add employee ID. So I will write employee ID and I will use a data type, which is varchar. I can use int as well, but I'm just using int right now, but we can use varchar int anything. Now I want to enter name. For name, we have to use varchar only. So I will use varchar 20. Now again, I will put comma because I want to add my third column. So third column will be date of joining when the employee has joined. So date of joining I will write and I will give it a data type as varchar like date. Now I will write salary here, salary, and I will give it a data type as float. That's all. So now my table is created. If I run this, my table is created. So if you want to check the table, you can check it like this. You can click on this ABC. You can click on this table and you can see that there is a table employees that you have created. So now if you want to see the picture of this table, what you have to do is you have to write select. So if see in SQL, if you want to get the records, if you want to see the records on your screen, then every time you have to use select. So select is basically the things that you write in select comes on your screen or comes as your output on the screen. So I will write select. Now I will write star. So this star basically means, or this asterisk basically means, whenever you want to fetch all the columns information, like you want the values or you want all the column information, then you have to use asterisk. You can also say that if you want all the data that is there in the table, then you have to use asterisk. If Senthil Kumar is saying, if we want date and month, is that possible? 100% this is possible. So Senthil Kumar, the thing that you are asking, if you want to take date and month, so these things comes under a part of inbuilt functions under date domain. So when I will tell you inbuilt functions in the sixth class, at that point of time, I will tell you how to take out week, day, month, date, year, or anything from a particular date. So right now we are using select star, which means select everything from kahan se, like from where. So from, in from thing you write destination. So I want all the things from employees table, and I will select it and I will run it. You are seeing the above definition of the table. So you have 4 columns in the table, but there is nothing inside that columns. That's why you are getting no value here. So this is the basic structure of your table. Okay, till this point everybody is clear. Okay, so now let's move. So we have 12 minutes left. So in this 12 minutes, we'll talk about constraints. So see, when we are talking about constraint, we have 6 constraints: not null, unique, primary key, foreign key, and unique, not null, unique, primary key, foreign key, your default. And the sixth thing is our, am I forgetting something? Check, correct. Check constraint. So we have these 6 kind of constraints. So we'll talk about not null. So first, before talking about not null, what is null? So just understand, you have a glass of water, or you have a glass, but there is nothing inside the glass, which means you have a memory, but there is nothing inside that memory. So if you talk about a glass of water, if there is no water inside that glass, which means you can accommodate water in that glass, but there is no water inside that glass, which means you have a space, you have a memory, but there is nothing inside that memory. Then at that point of time, this is known as null. So if you have any column in which there is a null value, then you can understand it like you have a space there, but you have inserted nothing inside that space. So you can call null as empty space. So null is basically empty space. So you have a space, you have a memory assigned to it, but there is nothing inside that memory or no value inside that memory. Is this clear what is null? Now, if you know about null, then tell me what will be not null. What is not null? So not null is basically, if you have assigned memory to something, then you have to put a value there. You cannot leave it empty. So if I am talking about not null, then you have to make that memory use. You cannot leave that memory empty. So that is something known as not null. So if any column has a constraint not null in it, so I will give you an example. Suppose I have written employee ID int and I have written not null here. And this not null is basically my constraint. So we write constraint like this. First we write a column name, then we write data type, then we write constraint. So if I have written not null like this, what will happen? It means that you have to fill a employee ID. You cannot leave the employee ID empty. Is this clear? What is not null constraint? Now we'll talk about unique. So suppose I want to add a unique constraint here. So if I'm adding a unique constraint to the name column, what will happen? It means that if you have written Durgesh once, you cannot add a other entry with the name Durgesh, which means every name will be unique in the table. So if once Durgesh has been entered in the table, if you will try to enter Durgesh the second time, you will get an error. So unique is basically to remove all the duplicates for that column in which you have applied the unique constraint. Is this clear to all of you? What is unique? Okay, nice. Now let's talk about the third one, which is check constraint. Can we have multiple constraint applied into a single column? Very good question. So Abhinash has asked me very good question. He asked me, can we have more than one constraint into a single column? The answer is yes. So for example, if I have written unique here, I can also use check constraint here. I can also use, like you can have multiple number of constraints in a single column. Just you have to do is you have to write them by giving a space. So I have written unique. I can also give not null. I can also give other things as well. So we can have more than one constraint into a single column. Okay. So now let's talk about the third thing, check. So if I am using check constraint, then I will write it like this: date of joining, date, and then I will write check. And inside the check constraint, I will write same column name, date of joining, greater than, and I will write a date here, 2023-0101. So at that point of time, whenever I will insert some value in the date of joining column, I have to be very clear that date must be greater than 2023-0101. If date is less than that, then we will not be able to enter anything there. Are you able to understand check constraint? Now, after this check constraint, we'll talk about our default. So if I have used default somewhere, just take an example. I want to take a city column here, one more column city. And in the city column, I will give a data type varchar 20. And I will give a default constraint here. And in the default, I will write Lucknow. So what will happen if I will not insert any value in the city column, or if I will leave my city column empty? At that point of time, by default, Lucknow value will appear here there. So default is basically used to remove the values that you have not, like to replace the values where you have not inserted anything. So if by any chance I forgot to enter city in my city column, then by default a city will occur there, which is known as Lucknow. Is this clear to all of you? Okay, nice. Now for last 4 minutes, we can talk about primary key. And tomorrow I will give you a primary key foreign key example. Will insert, like not tomorrow, basically the next date. So let's talk about primary key now. So see, primary key is very simple to understand. Just take an example of roll number And just take an example of class. So in class, there are 5 people. In class, there are 5 people. Like there are 20 people basically. So in class, there are 20 people, out of which 5 people have the name Durgesh only. No surname, nothing. They have name Durgesh only. Now teacher called them for giving them the answer sheet. So teacher called Durgesh, come here and collect the answer sheet. At that point of time, what will happen? How many Durgesh will reach to the teacher? Five. Five, like all the people, all the students who have named Durgesh, all 5 will reach to the teacher. And at that point of time, it will be difficult. It will be difficult for teacher as well as the student to decide whose answer sheet is this. Am I correct? Am I correct? Now, to change this thing, you need to give some other value that is unique to all these people who have named Durgesh. So suppose I have given Durgesh, like first Durgesh, I have given a roll number 1. Second one, I have given a roll number 2. Third one, I have given a roll number 3. Fourth Durgesh, I have not given any roll number, so which means null is there. And fifth Durgesh, I have given not given anything. So again, there is null here because we have made roll number column. So if you will not give any value to roll number column, it will get null. So now again teacher called that Durgesh come and collect your answer sheet. At this point of time, she mentioned roll number as well, like roll number 1, roll number 2, roll number 3, and she called. So at that point of time, when teacher called them, see, these 3 are distinguishable because they have something there, because they have a different roll number. So teacher will call 3, teacher will call 2, teacher will call 1, and all these 3 will come get their answer sheet. But what will happen to these other 2, 4 and 5, like last 2? So for these 3, they have their roll number. Teacher called their roll number 1, roll number 2, roll number 3, and they all got their answer sheet correctly. But what will happen to these things? Because they have no roll number. So again, the same thing will occur. Teacher will call Durgesh. Again, these 2 will come. Yes or no? Because they don't have any roll number. So again, there will be a confusion. So primary key comes here into the picture. So primary key is a key which will always be unique. So if you are assigning something as a primary key, it will always be unique and it will be never null, which means not null. So these are the 2 primary conditions for creating a column as primary key, unique and not null. So roll number for defining Durgesh's identity, that roll number will always be unique and not null. Got it? We'll again like revise this concept of primary key in the next class. So that's all from my side. Hope you people like the class because I have a next session after 9 p.m. So I'm ending this up right now. Thanks all of you for joining. Hope you liked the class. If you have any doubts or anything, what I will do is I will open the chat section for the group and you people can ask me the questions as well. And see, I will talk about this for more like timing in session. So if you people are comfortable with 1.5 hours also, we'll talk about this and we can make the session timing more so that you can like do more things. But for all of you, I will ask one more question in the group. So if you want to learn little early, like for weekdays you want to learn little early, then what you can do is the next 2 sessions that I am going to teach you in on Saturday and Sunday. What I will do is I will give you their recordings from my previous sessions, from my previous classes, so that you can revise those things for complete weekdays. And when you will come on the weekends, you can ask your doubts also. So all these things will be discussed today. So the timing is 1 hour each class, but if you people are comfortable, we can increase the timing to 1.5 hours. So I will tell you all these things in the class today, and you will be able to understand as well. So if this is a problem and you want to learn more, then I will solve all those problems. Okay. Thanks all of you for joining.